Everyone's asking the same question. What happens after King Charles? He's aging. So is Camilla. The endgame is coming, and the crown's future feels like a ticking clock. When Charles goes, Camilla's role shifts, but that's not the shock. Camilla just got thrown out of the palace. Not over scandals, not over jewels. This time, it's bigger. Explosive new proof just linked her to Princess Diana's death. Not whispers, not conspiracy talk, real evidence. And the fallout? Brutal. The public's livid. Charles had to make a choice, and he chose exile. This wasn't just overdue, it was unstoppable. Turns out there was a secret investigation, one nobody saw coming. In March 2025, Prince William quietly greenlit a covert legal review into what really happened to Diana in 1997. They called it Operation Orchid, and it zeroed in on 3 final days in Paris. What they found shattered the story we thought we knew. That sealed 2003 dossier, it had been shelved for years, now it was blowing the doors off. It showed Diana's security was suddenly shuffled, her protection details stripped, names surfaced, connected directly to Clarence House, and behind it all, Camilla's circle, pulling strings. The crash was no longer just a crash. By May, a French investigator dropped the bombshell. Jean-Luc Martin confirmed it. British officials tampered with the case. Records were edited in '97. Escort times were mysteriously shifted. Diana's car wasn't delayed by traffic. It was intentionally held back. And the emails? They weren't just palace chatter. They used phrases like destabilizing risk and legacy ISI. That's spy-level speak. And it gets worse. MI6 had voice files, secret, encrypted. One was recorded August 29, 1997 at 10:15 p.m. The voice? Camilla's. "Are you sure the escort can wait?" she said. That delay? 45 minutes. That escort never made it. Diana's car hit the Alma Tunnel at midnight. That crash wasn't a fluke. It was a setup. May 28, 2025. The final report lands. Diana's team had been slashed from 4 guards to 1, right before the tunnel. Surveillance confirmed it. William read it, said nothing, then behind closed doors, just 4 words. This was a betrayal. What started as a whisper ended in fire. The monarchy couldn't outrun the past forever. Operation Orchid cracked it wide open. Buried files were dragged into daylight. But the coldest twist? A letter, written by Diana herself. And what was once dismissed as emotion now read like prophecy. The date was October 12, 1996. Diana put pen to paper and exposed the threat she felt closing in. That letter had been locked away for decades, but once revealed, everything changed. Her words weren't just warnings, they were receipts. In the next wave, her fears would rewrite the palace's legacy from the inside out. June 2025. Forensic teams at the Royal Archives finally broke the seal. The letter, hidden inside a vault once owned by her former butler, was real. Paper, ink, handwriting, all matched Kensington Palace materials. One line hit hardest. There is a plan. Camilla has more power than anyone believes, and now we had proof. But one letter wasn't all. There was another note, dated June 1st, 1997, just 10 weeks before Diana's death. "If anything happens to me on the trip, open this," she wrote. The trip, the French Riviera with Dodi Al-Fayed. That envelope stayed shut until Prince William personally overrode palace protocol in May 2025. Inside was a fire. Legal experts called it what it was, a warning, a declaration, and the audit backed it up. Palace emails exchanged between August 15th and 30th, 1997 repeated coded phrases. Destabilization may be required. Legacy transition. The timing? Matched Diana's second note exactly. That's not a coincidence. That's a conspiracy. Now it wasn't just Diana's voice, it was emails, dates, voice recordings, all synced. On June 15th, 2025, the letters went public. Within hours, #Justice for Diana exploded across 81 countries. 2 days later, Parliament launched an emergency debate. The monarchy wasn't facing rumors anymore. It was facing evidence. Camilla's grip on power had always been whispered. But now, it was written, in Diana's own hand. Ignored for years, her letters roared louder than ever. And just as the world demanded answers, the final blow wasn't fired by the press. It came from behind palace walls. She was always the palace's quiet hammer. But in July 2025, Princess Anne made her move. She didn't just ask questions, she hunted for answers. And what did she find? A money trail buried in silence. A financial link between Camilla and the crash that killed Diana. Operation Orchid wasn't enough for Anne. She wanted numbers, transactions, hard proof. So she launched her own investigation, fast, silent, and razor-focused. Alongside Royal Auditor Edward Sefton, she traced a single payment, $2.4 million, wired on August 29, 1997, from an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The recipient, Lucentia Global. A Paris-based security firm no one had ever heard of. Lucentia wasn't on MI6 records, no palace contracts, no oversight. Their only known assignment? A vehicle transfer during the exact weekend Diana died. Anne kept digging, and what surfaced turned cold suspicion into red-hot confirmation. On August 28th, Lucentia received one specific order: disrupt surveillance at the Ritz Paris. The same night Diana dined with Dodi, Lucentia's Paris contact, Jean Monantlaire, later testified. Disruption meant escort switches and route diversions. It matched the crash timeline to the minute. Then came the kill shot. Emails from Camilla's aide, Harrison Dent, tied everything together. One message, dated August 20th, read, "Final assurance required. Delays are non-attributable." That wasn't a suggestion. That was a setup. Those emails were real, encrypted, buried in servers deep in Berkshire. But cyber forensics cracked them open. Anne had everything: money, dates, messages, motives. Camilla, long protected by silence, now stood in the shadows of a deadly operation. This wasn't distant guilt. This was a direct connection. On July 12, 2025, Anne walked into Windsor Castle with the receipts. Just her and the king. Charles sat frozen. For 40 minutes he said nothing, just stared at the wires, the logs, the cover-ups. The man who once fought the world for Camilla was broken. When Anne finally spoke, she didn't yell. She whispered, "She killed our mother's peace." Charles didn't argue. He didn't deny. He closed the file, bowed his head, and gave the order Anne had waited years to hear: do what must be done. The palace couldn't hide anymore. Justice was no longer a concept. It had a name, a number, a paper trail. And just when the monarchy started to crumble, William stepped in. The silence snapped at Kensington Palace. William wasn't waiting anymore. On July 16, 2025, the prince made a move that shattered centuries of royal restraint, and what he did next would break headlines across the globe. No warning, no leaks. William called in his top legal advisor, Sir Daniel Gracemark. The files were stacked: Anne's report, Diana's letters, and every page from Operation Orchid. Then came the hammer. At 9:32 a.m., William signed a royal warrant invoking the Crown Integrity Act, a legal nuke reserved for national betrayal. Camilla, Queen Consort, was now under criminal review. By mid-afternoon, Clarence House was sealed tight. Two blacked-out vehicles entered through the north gate at 2:15 p.m. Camilla was in her study talking to her sister. She didn't see it coming. A senior officer stepped in and dropped the line that ended it all. "You're being placed under palace confinement. Charges? Treason. State manipulation." Her face went white. Her only word? William. At 4 p.m., the sealed arrest notice hit King Charles's private chambers. He didn't fight it, he just signed. Aides say he wept. He only said one thing: for Diana, for the truth. And with that, Camilla was no longer just controversial. She was a prisoner. By the next day, she was locked inside the east wing of Balmoral. Her title stayed, but her power was gone. 24-hour surveillance. Every call monitored. No press briefings, no spin, just silence and steel. When the public found out on July 18th, the world lit up. Justice for Diana trended across 4 million tweets. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera. The headlines screamed, "Camilla arrested, monarchy in crisis." Protesters stormed the gates. 30 years too late signs filled the air. For the first time, the people, the palace, and the law were all aligned. Her titles couldn't shield her anymore. But this wasn't the end. The reckoning had only begun. Camilla wouldn't disappear into quiet confinement. No, the showdown was coming, and it would happen inside the stone walls of Westminster Hall. A trial that wouldn't just make history, it would rip it open. The air inside Westminster Hall was suffocating. Beneath the towering portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, silence fell like a gavel. Then came the charges. Lady Eloise Marrow stood tall and delivered the blow. Conspiracy, defamation, obstruction. Each word hit like a grenade. Camilla wasn't just on trial, she was being dismantled. The evidence came hard and fast. 8 hours, no breaks, Diana's letters, Lucentia Global's bank trail, the voice file time-stamped just 2 days before the crash. All of it, out in the open. Camilla, draped in a navy coat dress, never said a word. Her lawyer claimed it was all mismanagement, not malice, but no one in that room believed it. The cameras locked on William. Frozen. Controlled. But then he rose, and the room stopped breathing. On July 25th, he took the stand. He read Diana's words out loud. "They want me out of the way." That was it. The moment. The silence afterwards said everything. Then he added, "We failed her." No stutter, no hesitation. It wasn't testimony, it was fire. When asked if he forgave Camilla, he didn't flinch. "Forgiveness is not mine to give." That was the final nail. 3 days later, the verdict dropped. Guilty. Camilla lost everything: her titles, her inheritance rights, her freedom. The sentence? Indefinite exile on the Isle of Skye. Royal status? Terminated. Outside, the streets erupted, cheers echoed through London, signs lifted, for Diana, for the future. It wasn't just about Camilla anymore, it was about healing, closure, a promise fulfilled. But behind the cheers, one truth lingered. The monarchy could move forward, but Diana's ghost wasn't finished. August 2nd, 2025. Camilla vanished. No motorcade, no press, just silence. She was relocated to a private estate on the Isle of Skye. Remote, cold, cut off. The Royal Exile Council picked it for a reason. No one in, no one out. Forests, cliffs, no access. By decree, she was banned from all palaces, public events, and royal engagements. Her title meant nothing now. 6 staff, 2 guards, a nurse, no luxury, no freedom, no crown. The media called it a velvet exile, but insiders had another word: ghosting. Her calls were monitored, visits limited, every cost paid from her own family's funds. The monarchy wasn't protecting her anymore, it was erasing her. Scotland Yard wasn't taking any chances. Camilla was now classified Tier 3 containment, a breach risk to the crown itself. Her days were clocked like a prisoner's, up at 6:30, monitored meals, therapy twice a week, and locked down by 9 p.m. No internet, no open news, just censored updates and paperback books. Her only contact with the outside world came from handwritten letters, filtered by her kids, Tom and Laura. But even they weren't safe. Laura lost her role at the National Gallery. Tom bailed from his Daily Mail column after public fury exploded. While Camilla faded into the Scottish fog, a bigger firestorm was brewing inside Kensington Palace. William wasn't done, not even close. Now he wanted to know, who else knew? That one question was about to rip open secrets that went back nearly 30 years, and what came next would hit harder than anything before. August 9th, 2025. A bombshell leak. An anonymous palace insider dropped a sealed file to the Times. Its name? Protocol 97. Its date? September 12, 1997, just days after Diana's funeral. Inside was a deal, a pact between Charles and Camilla to protect her, even if she had blood on her hands. Drafted by their personal strategist, Sir Aldrich Hawthorne, the document was clear. If Camilla ever faced accusations that could destabilize the crown, the palace would bury the truth, and Charles signed it. Parliament erupted. The House of Commons demanded a royal inquiry. Fast. Worse still, the file held logs showing that Camilla's aides had reached out to shadow security contractors in the exact months before the crash. It wasn't just theory anymore. Charles knew, and he stayed quiet. On August 13th, Charles faced the Royal Advisory Committee. Pale, shaking. When pressed, he broke. I loved her enough to protect her, even when I feared the worst. That one line leaked, and the internet detonated. Protect. Diana hit 5 million mentions in 24 hours, but the fallout wasn't just about Camilla anymore. It was about Charles, what he knew, what he covered, and how 2 boys, William and Harry, were left in the dark while the palace protected the one person their mother feared most. The monarchy was drowning in its own secrets, and Catherine had seen enough. She wasn't going to wait for the crown to fix things. Instead, she did what no one expected. She built trust, not with spectacle, but with genuine action. Camilla faded. Charles wavered. Catherine? She rose. On August 18, 2025, Catherine summoned royal archivists to Kensington Palace. No press, no fanfare, just a quiet act with monumental weight. Inside the secured heirloom vault, she placed a letter. For Charlotte, from your grandmother, through me. It wasn't just a letter. This was Catherine's power move. It wasn't about PR, it was about legacy. Diana's cherished items, the sapphire ring, the Spencer tiara, her diaries, would now belong to Charlotte, and they would never leave the Wales bloodline. On Charlotte's 18th birthday in 2043, they would pass to her. For good. The palace was silent, but the world wasn't. By August 20th, the news leaked. The public response? Overwhelming. 400,000 signatures. Support flooded in from every corner, including even the most hardened anti-monarchists. Catherine's move was grace, not spectacle. Diana's spirit was restored, untouchable. Internally, a new chapter began. The Wales Legacy Trust, a division dedicated to preserving Diana's history, headed by Lady Rachel Montford. But Catherine made it clear, this wasn't about ownership, it was guardianship. Diana's legacy was now locked in, and Charlotte's future was secure. The monarchy began to heal. But there was one final judgment coming, not from courts or politicians, but from the people themselves. The Diana marches weren't planned. They didn't have a leader or a political backer, but they exploded online. Diana deserved better. Camilla is gone, trending globally for 6 straight days in 31 countries. The anger was real. The verdict had come, and so had the people's rage. Sentiment, once split, was now unified. Camilla's exile, Charles's silence, Catherine's decisive act, it was moral reckoning. Editorials from the Times to Lyon called it the historic reckoning the monarchy had long evaded. A YouGov poll on August 22nd found 81% of respondents said Camilla should lose her title completely. 74% felt Charles had forever tainted his moral standing. The public wasn't just angry at Camilla, they were furious at Charles for standing by her for decades. But the real shock? Princess Charlotte, a 10-year-old, was the new face of Diana's second legacy. Thousands of letters flooded Kensington Palace. One read, "Dear Charlotte, your grandmother made us proud. Now you make us hope." Catherine made sure every letter was preserved. The monarchy's future, it wasn't in their hands anymore. It was in Charlotte's. By the time the world saw the truth, Catherine wasn't just a mother-in-law. She was a protector, a new symbol, Diana's legacy, reborn. The final chapter wasn't about punishment. It was about purpose. Diana's legacy secured, not by gold or marble, but by values. Then, on September 1st, 2025, Catherine and Charlotte appeared at Althorpe Estate, Diana's childhood home. No announcement, no press, just a quiet moment of history. Charlotte laid a white rose at Diana's memorial. It was simple. No tears, no spectacle, just silence. That photo, it would become the most shared image of the year. Diana's story finally was in the right hands. Diana's values didn't just survive, they thrived. Catherine ensured her legacy of compassion, mental health support, and children's welfare lived on under Charlotte's patronage. The Wales Legacy Fund raked in £12 million in just 4 days, fueled by supporters from 52 countries. The tide had shifted, public memory and action, now governed by family, not the crown. Inside Kensington Palace, Diana's belongings were carefully moved into a dedicated vault wing. Charlotte one day would oversee exhibitions in her name. A new family charter was signed by Prince William on September 6th, officially separating the Wales family legacy from the monarchy's control. It was historic. A royal family branch now owned the past, securing Diana's place in royal law forever. She was no longer erased. She had a rightful place in history. As for Camilla, she became a ghost in royal documents. Her name vanished. Exiled to Highgrove under private security oversight, she was forgotten by most. Charles the King was rarely seen in public anymore. The weight of his decisions weighed heavily on him. Meanwhile, Catherine didn't just rise in popularity, she became the moral compass. A September 10th poll by Ipsos UK had her at 89% approval, surpassing Queen Elizabeth II's final rating in 2022. The monarchy was no longer ruled by titles or spectacle. This was about betrayal, truth, and the power of memory. In the end, Camilla lost everything: her crown, her trust with the people, and her role in history. Diana, though gone, was more present than ever. Catherine, the queen the people never had risen, without ceremony, without title, but with pure heart. Be my MVP. Please subscribe and like my video so you won't miss the next deep dive. Drop your comments below. The conversation is just heating up.